You mentioned perceptions, and I think this country right now is living on the idea of perceptions, and we need to bring in facts. We need to bring in real stories that are going to counter false ideas that are bringing chaos essentially to society. As a woman, as a female Pakistani, South Asian, Muslim woman, you're a walking example. The sort of icebreaker topic that people come up with when they ask you about Islam or Muslims is, well, what about your women? Do you have to wear that thing on your head? How come you don't wear it? That's always the very first question they ask, in my experience. And so immediately you become a spokesperson. And so number one, you have to do your research. You have to educate yourself about, the religion, the culture, the countries, international, domestic affairs. That really helps you because your employers and where you work will also have those questions. And so you have to be able to meet at that level where you can hold a conversation. And ultimately that depends on what knowledge base you're bringing with you.
A gentleman came up to me and he asked, okay, why there is so much negative perception about Muslims in the media? Why always we see that anything happens in any Muslim country, people show like Muslims marching in the streets and they show angry Muslims around the world. What is this? I said, it's this because you are not in the media. If you will be there, you will tell the people this is not the whole story. You have to go beyond it. Why I chose to come to US because I thought when there is problem, where there is a problem, the solution is also there. So I wanted to come here so that I could prove to people around me who always said negative things to me that, okay, no, you can't do this, you can't go, your name is this, you're a Muslim, you're young, and that's what they're looking for right now. Don't go there. But I came in here, I studied here, I did my undergrad, I did a master's, and then why I chose to be a journalist, why I chose to share the stories from here with people back home. Because I thought unless or until we start sharing our stories with the people back home, they're not going to understand what are we here and what are we doing here and what we go through and what can we do for them.
Unfortunately, right now, they are going to have to deal with some sort of negative impact. I mean, at the point where it's a campaign issue that Muslims can't serve in a cabinet of a presidential capacity is ridiculous. So they're going to have to confront the stereotypes about Muslims. But I think they should be absolutely relentless and firm in confronting that very openly and very quickly in their interactions if they receive anything negative, and just take it off the table right away. And I think if they do that, that also gives people a lot of respect for them and their ability to carry their own beliefs in the face of opposition. And as an interaction goes on, as a business relationship emerges, I think that initial hostility would fade because people see that Muslims are like everybody else, just engaged citizens who want to improve their own lives and those of their other citizens.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I am Winston Zakaria Ibrahim, and I am one of the founders of Hydros. We're a sustainability lifestyle company, and our maiden product is the Hydros bottle. It's a water bottle with a built-in fast flow filter, all made here in America, toxin-free. And every time you buy one of our products, we make a contribution to our foundation, Operation Hydros, which then goes to build clean water access projects in the developing world. So in terms of my background, my family is originally from India on my father's side and Pakistan. We're Kachi Memon, so we love money best, which I think is explicatory of where I've started to head in my career. And I've always had a sort of interesting relation with public opinion and my Muslim identity. And it's posed varying challenges at different points to the level of, in some cases, people just don't know how to treat you because their public perception of Muslims is not necessarily that of a business person. They think Muslim and they think, oh, you must be uber religious, or how can you go to this business gathering where people happen to be drinking? How can you deal with these people? And how are you not supposed to be praying right now? So people have these perceptions that, you know, Muslims can only fit in a certain box. And you know, I've recently been trying to knock that out of that box. So
it's important, and being a journalist and as being a Pakistani, I think it's important to impress upon the Pakistani youth the importance of getting into something like the media, which is not a conventional occupation. It's not like being a doctor or being a lawyer, but it does have some value and has some real value that these kids can then go and tell their parents, listen, I don't necessarily want to be going down these conventional paths. I want to do something that's a little bit more, more visually oriented, or something more that involves writing. And then they can even tell them the value of it, how this is going to help the communities. The media is basically an institution that captures stories, right? Stories of individual people, stories of ordinary people, stories of extraordinary people, stories of communities, right? And these stories end up being part of this term called, that's very hot these days, the narrative, right? We're all part of a narrative. As Pakistanis and Pakistani Americans, we're all part of a narrative. Our problem is that our narrative is not very good, right? What people think of and what they see and what they hear of Pakistanis and what they're doing around the world is not very good, right? We get, there's Pakistan seen as a terrorist safe haven, seen as a place where people are, the government is corrupt, nobody is looking towards to trying to better the country, and then there's this whole problem of terrorism. So we're part of this sort of meta-narrative that isn't very positive. What is the advantage of being in the media as a Pakistani? The advantage is that you are in a position where you can start to influence that narrative. Every once in a while, even a congressman will pick up a story in the New York Times and say, well, look, I just read the story about how Pakistanis are extremists and Pakistanis are religiously oriented, etc. And I just read this, and we should now look at legislation to try and do something that will change what Pakistanis are thinking. Now, we don't want to be in that position. And if we were in that New York Times story, if that was written by someone who was a Pakistani or a Pakistani American, would necessarily bring a little bit of nuance into that, a little bit of more objectivity into it than would necessarily otherwise be there.